Federal assault charges have been filed against Congresswoman LaMonica McIver yesterday following an incident at Delaney Hall ICE Detention Center. President Trump says Russia and Ukraine to immediately begin ceasefire talks after a 2-hour call with Putin. He also shared his thoughts on Biden's recent cancer diagnosis. And 4 of the New Orleans Justice Center fugitives have been arrested and are in custody. 6 of them are still at large. All of this coming up, but before we get into it, please be sure to like, subscribe if you haven't already, and tap the notification bell so you never miss an update.
Delaney Hall, that privately run facility, it was contracted by a private company to house undocumented migrants pending deportation. And you remember, at that very scene were 3 Democratic members of Congress from New Jersey and the mayor of Newark, Ross Baraka, who happens to be also running to be New Jersey's next governor. So you see there the melee that this caused as these members of Congress and the mayor of Newark were trying to gain access to the facility. Well, in front of me right now, I have an official statement, an official update from the acting U.S. attorney for the District of New Jersey. That's, of course, Alina Habba, who at one point was President Trump's personal attorney. She's now in an acting capacity in this role here. Take a look at that. You see
Congresswoman LaMonica McIver went from fighting for justice to allegedly fighting ICE agents. I really thought she was about to square up with them for a second. What was going on? The New Jersey's interim U.S. attorney Alina Habba had this to say in her letter.
Statement from Alina Habba. I have it in front of me. She says this: I take my obligations as U.S. attorney seriously. I understand the responsibility that comes with my position, and I will work diligently to uphold the law and deliver justice to the people of New Jersey. She says, after extensive consideration, we have agreed to dismiss Mayor Baraka's misdemeanor charge of trespass for the sake of moving forward. So, headline there, the charge against the mayor of Newark has been dismissed. That was a misdemeanor charge of criminal trespass. Now, the statement goes on to say, in the spirit of public interest, I have invited the mayor to tour Delaney Hall. The government has nothing to hide at this facility, and I will personally accompany the mayor so he can see that firsthand. She says, the citizens of New Jersey deserve unified leadership so we can get to work to keep our state safe. She says, the dismissal against the mayor is not the end of this matter. So, offering an invitation there to Mayor Baraka to tour Delaney Hall. Now, she goes on to say, let's put up more of this video from the scene itself. Take a look at this. Habba says congressional oversight is an important constitutional function and one that I fully support. However, that is not an issue in this case. Habba says this: Representative LaMonica McIver assaulted, impeded, and interfered with law enforcement in violation of Title 18 U.S. Code Section 111A1. That conduct cannot be overlooked by the chief federal law enforcement official in the state of New Jersey, and it is my constitutional obligation to ensure that our federal law enforcement is protected when executing their duties.
I think by filing charges against Representative LaMonica McIver, it sends a clear message that no one is above the law, regardless of your political office. It lets elected officials know that they cannot use their positions as a shield for unlawful behavior, especially when it involves obstructing federal law enforcement. But in other news, President's recent 2-hour phone call with Russian President Vladimir Putin marks a significant development in the ongoing efforts to resolve the conflicts in Ukraine.
As we are hearing from President Trump after he finished his phone call with Russian President Vladimir Putin, Caroline Leavitt, the press secretary for the White House, just issuing this statement from President Trump saying, just completed my 2-hour call with President Vladimir Putin of Russia. I believe it went very well. Russia and Ukraine will immediately start negotiations toward a ceasefire and, more importantly, an end to the war. This is a live look right here of the White House, as I did want to read the entire response from President Trump right here. He goes on to say the conditions for that will be negotiated between the two parties, as it can only be because they know details of a negotiation that nobody else would be aware of. The tone and spirit of the conversation were excellent. If it wasn't, I would say so now rather than later. Russia wants to do large large-scale trade with the United States when this catastrophic, quote, bloodbath is over. And I agree, there is a tremendous opportunity for Russia to create massive amounts of jobs and wealth. Its potential is unlimited. Likewise, Ukraine can be a great beneficiary on trade in the process of rebuilding its country. Negotiations between Russia and Ukraine will begin immediately. I have so informed President Zelensky of Ukraine, Ursula von der Leyen, President of the European Commission, President Emmanuel Macron of France, Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni of Italy, Chancellor Friedrich Merz of Germany, and President Alexander Stubb of Finland during a call with me immediately after the call with President Putin. The Vatican, as represented by the Pope, has stated it would be very interested in hosting the negotiations. Let the process begin.
Ending the war will be beneficial to both countries. Millions of civilians can begin to return to a normal life without fear. Thousands of families would be reunited. A ceasefire would stabilize energy and food markets, open the door for trade expansion, and ultimately it would improve America's image and our global influence. If you're finding this content valuable, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. It really helps support the channel and keep it growing. Thank you all so much in advance. Now, with that said, let's get back to today's headlines. Here's what President Trump had to say about Biden's cancer diagnosis and the handling by his medical team, and I totally agree with his stance on this.
And it takes a long time to get to that situation. Now, I think, to get to a stage 9, I think that if you take a look, it's the same doctor that said that Joe was cognitively fine. There was nothing wrong with him. Well, he said, if it's the same doctor, he said there was nothing wrong there, and that's being proven to be a sad situation. And the auto pen is becoming a very big deal. The auto pen is becoming a big deal because it seems like that maybe was the president who ever operated the auto pen. But when they say that that was not good, they also, you have to look and you have to say then the test was not so good either. In other words, there are things going on that the public wasn't informed. And I think somebody's going to have to speak to his doctor, if it's the same, or even if it's two separate doctors. Why wasn't the cognitive ability, why wasn't that discussed? And I think the doctor said he's just fine, and it's turned out that's not so. It's very dangerous. Look, this is no longer politically correct. This is dangerous for our country. Look at the mess we're in. You're talking about all these questions on Ukraine and Russia that would have never happened. As an example, if I were president, would have never happened. The other thing is you have to say, why did it take so long? I mean, this takes a long time. It can take years to get to this level of danger. So it's a very, very sad situation, and I feel very badly about it. And I think people should try and find out what happened.
Yep, it was a total cover-up by the Biden administration to keep him in office for the sake of power. Like, elder abuse doesn't even begin to describe what happened in this case. I cannot believe that Dr. Joe Biden allowed them to parade her husband around as if he was mentally sane. Like, again, this situation is very sad, and I wish him and his family well. The New Orleans prison break fugitives are being rounded up one by one.
All right, look at the big wall and the guys who broke out of the big house. The manhunt underway after several violent prisoners, including accused murderers and attempted murderers who escaped from a Louisiana jail last Friday. This is the video of the moment they busted out. Police have arrested 3 of the 10 men in the New Orleans area. That happened on Friday night, and they sent them back to lockup. There were a number of security failures, but the New Orleans sheriff says this may have been an inside job.
We do acknowledge there is no way people can get out of this facility without there being some type of lapse in security. There's no way. It's almost impossible, not completely, but almost impossible for anybody to get out of this facility without help from the outside.
Oh, inside and outside. We're also learning the fugitives broke out through a hole they created in a wall hidden behind a jail cell toilet. Sounds like a movie. And they left a message written on the wall, "Too easy, LOL." Like, for the big easy. Okay. Some of the 7 remaining inmates, here we go, from the big house. Here they are. The big inmates are facing murder charges. Others are facing charges for violent crimes, such as aggravated assault and domestic abuse. Meanwhile, there are questions over why the jail authorities did not follow state law and immediately alert the public. It took hours for word to reach the public.
Now, who in their right mind will help inmates escape? Imagine risking your own freedom just to help somebody escape out of jail, and then you get caught. However, this is a significant step in restoring public safety and holding the facility accountable. Their capture shows that law enforcement is making progress in what could have been a far more dangerous situation. That's all for today, folks, and I would like to sincerely thank all of you who have subscribed and supported my channel so far. It means everything to me. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please go ahead and do so. Thanks so much for watching this video, and I'll see you next time.